Hey, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we are doing my May TBR video. So it's gonna be kind of, hopefully, a short one. Wait, let me grab my mic. Okay, hopefully this is better. I'm trying to use my mics more. The sound quality isn't great, but that's okay. No one really watches these anyways. And if you are watching, thank you so much for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. Comment down below if you've read any of these books I'm about to talk about and what you think and what you rated them, or if they're on your radar. And yeah, let me know what you think. Okay, I think I have everything now, hopefully. Yeah, as I said, we're doing the May TBR video. Major spoilers. If you have not watched one of my reading wrap-up videos, I talk in depth about the book, the plot, the characters, what I liked, what I didn't like. So if you are interested in reading any of these books, please skip ahead if you don't want spoilers. Yeah, as I said, we had a pretty good reading month in May. I read 8 books, which is pretty good for me. And if you don't watch my videos or haven't really followed along up until this point, I did say that I wanted to read only new releases in May. I'd like to do that every 6 months or so. So I did it in May. So the next time I'll do it is in November. I want to read a couple new releases every month. That's my goal. And that's kind of hard because my libraries aren't that great, and also Libby, I can't always get them on Libby, but I'm going to try to save my Spotify hours every month to have for sure listen to one audiobook a month. But I love starting the videos off with just doing a yes, no, or maybe for the books I read. So let's do that first. Wait, let's start with this first. So I had 9 books on my TBR and I read 5 out of the 9 books. So that's pretty good for me. And then I had 3 extras that weren't on my TBR that I decided to read as well. So in total, I read 8 books. I don't know. My goal was 9. I read 8. 5 were on my TBR. I call it a win. I am currently reading Into the Blue. I started that at the end of this past month. I literally started that like the last week of May, and I'm still 25% of the way through. I'm just kind of slowly reading it. There's no chapters in it, so that doesn't make me very motivated. Like, oh, I'll just read to the next chapter. Like, just like breaks in the page, and that's just kind of weird to me. But yeah, so let's start with the yes, no, or maybe of everything I read this month. More Than Enough by Anna Quindlen, yes. Porcupines by Fran Fabrizicki? I'm not quite sure. But Porcupines, maybe leaning towards no. American Fantasy by Emma Straub, yes for me, but in general, maybe. No Matter What by Cara Bass Stone, yes. Yesteryear by Carol Claire Burke, yes. The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez, yes. So Old, So Young, it started out as a maybe, but ended up being a yes. The Burning Side, yes. So let's just get into the ratings. So the first book I read this month was More Than Enough by Anna Quindlen. That was an audiobook, and that was on my TBR. I liked the book. I gave it 3.75 stars. I probably could have given it a 4-star thinking back on it. I actually really liked it. I finished it in a day, the audiobook. It was like 8 hours or something like that. And for me, sometimes like More Than Enough was actually a really good book, and I just read it in one day, and I feel like I didn't really appreciate it as much as I could have if I took my time with it. So, but that book is about this woman who is really struggling with fertility, and her husband is a zookeeper, and she's in this book club where they don't actually read any books. And everyone in this book club kind of has their own thing going on. And her best friend, she finds out, is sick and dying. She finds out, the main character, I forget her name, but she finds out that her best friend is like sick with cancer or something like that. She's really sick and she ends up dying. And so she dies, and then this gal is like super sad, but then she finds out at the end that she's pregnant, and then it's like kind of a happy ending. But then she also finds out that her dad, who is in a memory care unit, isn't actually her dad, and she has like mommy issues. It was really good. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I should have probably given it a 4 stars, which I can change it, but that'd be a book that I'd be interested in rereading, or actually getting a physical copy and rereading. The audiobook was really good. Like, it was actually really good. I would recommend listening to the audiobook. Again, I gave it 3.75 stars, but I probably, really thinking back on it, like I really enjoyed it and I kind of teared up a little bit. I didn't cry, but I was like tearing up, and I probably should have given it 4 stars. Not much else to say about that because, again, that was my first read in May, and it's kind of like, it's not something I've really thought about since, but thinking back on it now, I liked it more than I originally thought I did, if that makes any sense. The second book I read this month was Porcupines. I originally picked this book out on Spotify because I thought it was like a book of the month pick, or maybe like a book of the month add-on, and I really loved the cover, and that's the only reason I wanted to read it. I knew nothing about it going in, and I gave it 3 stars, and I gave it 3 stars because I don't really think I was the target audience for this book. Not that there has to be, and not that you can't enjoy a book that's not necessarily written for you, but it was just like, I just didn't understand a lot of it. And when I started the book, I think the first 25%, it was like one of those days where I was doing a lot of stuff and I was listening to the audiobook, but I wasn't really listening to it. And I should have, like, the first 20% of the book was kind of important. But there's this woman named Sonia, and she has a daughter, Mila, and it goes back and forth in time from when Sonia is an adult with her daughter, Mila, and they're doing school things, to going back when Sonia was a high schooler, coming to the States for the first time. She's Hungarian and Jewish, and I don't remember why she came to the States, but her sister came to the States with her, and they were going to like this Jewish school and learning English, and her sister married this guy and had kids, and Mila was just like, what are you doing? And Mila had some friends growing up and some guy friends, and the book was written in, is it first person or third person? Whatever one is like, then Mila did this, and then Sonia thought this, and Sonia did this, and then she said this. And I like that sometimes, but this just wasn't one of those times where I liked it. I'm not a super huge fan of that, and I get it, a lot of books are written that way, but I'm just not a super huge fan of that. I'd rather be like, oh, my name is Sonia, and I felt like this, and I was going through this, instead of just like, Sonia saw this, and then Sonia drove to here. Kind of just takes me out of it a little bit. And I think this is like during the Cold War too, when Sonia was younger, and like something with the Berlin Wall. It was just a hard time for, I think, immigrants from that area of the world to be in the United States and really know what's going on. But I just felt like, I don't know, I honestly, it's really hard to describe, especially because Sonia just made a lot of bad decisions and just kept making them, and then got caught, and then there was really no like consequences at the end. And Mila found out, unfortunately, about those bad decisions, but yet like nothing ever really happened. I just didn't fully understand it. And then also it was really hard to tell, because I was on audiobook, when it was back in time or forward in time, because it would just be like, chapter 4, Sonia went to school and da-da-da-da-da. And then I'm like, wait. Sonia's in school, like as the mom in school, like she's going to see Mila or what? It was really confusing. I think that's one of those books where you're going to just have to read it yourself and figure out your own opinion. And I'm sure a lot of people love this, and I wish I did. I am so ignorant about some of these topics, and especially like something like this, you'd think like I would learn a lot, but I just didn't understand a lot was going on. And I think it might have been the writing, and I hate to say that, but it just wasn't my favorite. 3 stars is just okay though. Like 3 stars isn't a bad rating. I think if this is something you're interested in, going back between the 90s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, like that time period, there's a lot of fun stuff. They talked about Back to the Future and stuff like that, and you know, Sonia learning how to drive, and there were some really cute moments with her. And is it Marco? Is that what that kid's name is? I don't know. I've read a couple books with a guy named Marco in it. But anyway, 3 stars for Porcupines. Not much to say about it. Wasn't my fave. The next book I read was American Fantasy by Emma Straub. I gave this 4 stars, which might be crazy. I watched Sarah Caroli on YouTube here, and she gave this 2 stars or 3 stars. She might have even given this 2 stars. And to be fair, this is a really slow book. The same thing kind of happens over time, and you think there's going to be more of a romance, and there's really not till like the very, very, very end. But I was literally in the play, like I had a show every single night, Monday to Saturday, and I read this that week. So this came kind of like, it was like right book, right time for me, where I needed a book that was kind of the same every time and mundane. So like when I picked it up, I knew what was happening because the same thing happened 5 times already. So, and for me, I really enjoyed that aspect. I also enjoyed okay, let me tell you a little bit about what this is. So there's 3 perspectives. Annie, who is a gal that is going on the cruise ship as one of the guests. There is Keith, who is a part of the boy band that this cruise is themed after. This whole cruise ship is themed after this boy band called Boy Talk, and Boy Talk is on the cruise ship. And then there's Sarah, who is one of like the main workers on the ship, which, to be fair, I don't really know what her perspective brought to this book besides the last little bit. It brought drama, but besides that, like, she literally didn't bring anything to the table for this, unless we were just supposed to see like a different perspective, like a break. But basically, Annie goes on this cruise. She's like 50, newly divorced, just got demoted from her job, and her sister got injured and couldn't go on this cruise with her. So Annie goes by herself, and she's like, oh man, like I really, like my sister's a big Boy Talk fan yet. Like that was so high school of me, like whatever. She sees them and it's like, wow, I still love them. I still know all the words to these songs. And you just kind of see Annie go from like awkward, like not really sure of herself, like too scared to be herself, to leaving the cruise being like, you know what, like it's okay to like things from your childhood, and it's okay, like I'm gonna quit my job, like I don't have to deal with this. Like just because I've been there for a long time and I think I'm not replaceable, you know what, I am, and someone else can do my job because I don't have to be embarrassed to get demoted and have a 20-year-old take my job, you know? And she just became like a stronger person, and you kind of see her go through that slowly, and you kind of see Keith as well go from this really insecure human to just being like, you know what, I'm not going to take this crap anymore. And I thought that was really lovely. And then Keith and Annie's friendship / kind of flirtiness at the end was really cute. You know, for Keith, I don't really think it was insta-lovey for Keith, more just, oh, she's here and now. Annie was kind of insta-lovey, like, but it's also like, oh my gosh, like all these guys from the boy band are here. And, you know, I liked this one to begin with, but now I like this one. Like her bias changed, which is like, so like whatever, like that's kind of like, it's not like, I don't think Annie was like in love with Keith. I just think her bias changed. And yeah, was this kind of boring and mundane? Yes. Also, I did tab a spot in this because this is like a 50-year-old woman complaining at the beginning of the book about this 20-year-old taking her job and her getting demoted. And it's kind of all about like, oh, I have to use my phone and I can't use Zoom, and I'm just going to read a book about dragons and whatever. But then the writer uses this vocabulary. Let me find it. I tabbed this, so it's somewhere in here. It says, so this is like costume pajama night, okay? And all of a sudden, and this is, again, one of those books that's like, Annie saw this, and Annie said this, and da-da-da-da. So this says, Annie clocked lots of costumes she recognized as she made her way through the crowd towards the tiki bar. Annie clocked. Like, that's such a, and I get it, clocked isn't like, oh yeah, I clocked that. Or like, clocked has been around for a while, but I feel like recently it's been really like, oh, clock it, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, Annie clocked? I'm like, that's kind of weird. And there was other things like that too, just throughout the book, where I'm like, why is a 50-year-old woman like thinking, like, why are we using this vocabulary about this kind of woman? That's the other thing too, and which is why I only gave it 4 stars, was because like, well, this definitely wasn't a 5-star read, but the 4 stars, it was just kind of like, it was good, it's what I needed at the time, but also the vocab in it, I'm just like, I just, again, don't like the Annie did this and Annie said this and Annie clocked this. I'm like, okay, we get it. Like, a millennial is writing this about a 50-year-old woman and using the word clocked. Like, I just felt like that was weird. But yeah, American fantasy, like, if you are going to be busy, like on vacation or something, and you just kind of need a short, mundane book. I mean, this has short chapters. Some of the chapters are literally like 1 to 2 pages long. Yeah. And it's, you know, about a cruise ship, a vacation. And this is the thing about cruise ships, is they are repetitive and you kind of do the same things every day. And I don't know, again, right book, right time for me, 4 stars. I like I said in the beginning, it was a yes for me, but it's probably a maybe. Like I could see someone picking this up and be like, yeah, this was just okay. Like Sarah Caroli, she did not like it. And if I was just reading this, like trying to sit down and read this, I probably wouldn't like it either. I had a lot going on. This is what I needed at the time. 4 stars. So next is Yesteryear. And I went back and forth about my rating, but I did end up giving this 3.75 stars, which I think I want to say it's like kind of controversial, but I feel like there's like a lot of buzz around this book, and I wish I had someone to talk about this with in person to get their perspective, because maybe that would have changed my opinion, because I got done with this book and literally was like, what did I just read? Which I love that feeling. Like I did love this book, but I also hated it. Loved it, but also hated it. 5 star, but also 3.75 star. Do you know what I mean? It was such an odd book. If you haven't, I feel like if you haven't read this book, you need to do it. Like you need to do it. But this is the thing and I think I had expectations for this book, and because the book wasn't like that, I think that's where it flopped. For me, I thought this was going to be about like a religious cult, a girl in a religious cult joining whatever. And I heard someone say that this is a girl who grew up in a religious cult, and I saw a couple people say that, so I thought it was going to be cultish. I'm telling you right now, she does not grow up in a religious cult. She grows up in a religious family, and her mother is not a cult leader or anything. She gets married into this like political kind of cult-ish weird thing, but it's not a religious cult. And that's what I thought it was going to be, and it's not. And as a religious person, there's like a fine line between like, yeah, this is real. Like people keep saying like Ballerina Farms. This was giving me 6 Passengers, Mom. Like that's what this was giving me. And the ending definitely gave me 6 Passengers vibes more than Ballerina Farms vibes, but I definitely see the Ballerina Farms influence on this. So let's just talk about what this is about. So it's about this girl, and she's an influencer. She has like 5 or 6 kids, and right at the beginning of the book, you find out that her editor left in the middle of the night, and okay. I'm trying to think of like the timeline because it goes back and forth in time a lot. But her editor, video editor, photographer, like filmer, not left in the middle of the night. Well, maybe she did. She quit. And it starts the book like with Natalie knowing that she was going to quit. And then we kind of go back in time to see her start. So she's in college when she meets her husband, Caleb. And she has this roommate who she's obsessed with. Her name is Rena. Her roommate's name is Rena. And she provokes Rena into attacking her. And, you know, the thing is like, this is totally a thing where I grew up in a community where there is lots of very religious people. And there is totally this trope of where, you know, people see these religious people that grew up in these really religious communities, and they're like, oh my gosh, they're in a cult, And I think Natalie kind of really took that to heart, even though she didn't want to, and was mean to Rena. And she ended up provoking Rena into attacking her, and then they got separated. But Natalie is obsessed with Rena the entire book, which that plot, I'm still not sure like what that had to do with anything. She always was talking about like, oh yeah, Rena wants to go to the city and make it big, and then she won't get married or have kids until she's 40, and then she won't be able to get pregnant, and she's going to be living by herself. And I just kind of feel like maybe Natalie secretly wanted that life for herself, but again, it didn't. This is what's like, Natalie was talking about this life that Rena lived, like she wanted it, but yet I'm also like, no, you don't. Like, you don't want that. And she was shitting on it. But yet I'm like, wait, does she want this life? Like, is she crapping on it so bad because she wants it? So confusing. But anyway, she basically meets Caleb. They go on 3 dates. She gets married. She's disappointed by their wedding night. And their family is like the Kennedys, basically. Like what I imagine the Kennedys like. Like everyone's in politics. Everyone is like, Caleb's dad is like trying to run for president. And then all of his brothers are in politics. Caleb is not like very smart, so there's that. She like, and he's rich, like super, super rich. So I kind of feel like she was like, oh, this is the perfect Christian American family. And then when she marries into this family, she's like, oh, Caleb's kind of ugly. He can't like, in bed, and his family is like a weird political cult, but this is my life now, so I have to make the most of it. And it kept saying throughout the whole book, like, she's almost like the husband of the house and he's like the wife. So she had to take matters into her own hands, and that's why she started her social media page, which blew up. They like renovated this farm. She made a deal with her father-in-law, like, if you pay for this farm, I'll pay you back and whatever. But her father-in-law was like, you need to give me sons or like children or whatever. Also, her dad and mom are separated, and her mom lets everyone believe that her dad is dead, and she's like those that she's never asked. So she's kind of got mommy and daddy issues as well, this Natalie. But anyway, so they renovate this farm, and then all of a sudden we go, this is like every other chapter, we get like back in time, her in college meeting Caleb. But then all of a sudden we get transported back in time to like the 1800s, and her children are there, but they're not the same. Her husband's there, but he's like a little bit older. He's not the same. And they're living exactly like the 1800s, where like there's no lights and there's no indoor whatever, and their kitchen's different. She's like, this is my farm, but it's different, and this house is the same, but it's different. So obviously, like, I read this is the 5th book I read, so I finished this book like middle of May, and I still don't fully have thoughts, but here's where the big spoilers come in. So basically she gets so big that she needs to hire this gal to edit her videos for her and film for her, and it's like this younger gal my age, and she ends up filming all this stuff that's going to be really damaging to Natalie's career later. And remember, throughout all of this, there's flashbacks back to the 1800s where she's like really struggling. She's in and out of it. She gets hurt. Caleb slaps her. She can't make bread. Her children are rude to her. She's whatever. Okay, but so then she finds out that this new hire gal is sleeping with her husband. And she's like, what? Also, to get pregnant with all of her children, she made her husband like put his in like a bowl, and she like took a turkey baster and like to impregnate herself. Crazy. And also at one point she was like turned on by his dad and like wanted to like sleep with his dad, but then she didn't, which I'm like, okay. But anyway, she finds out this guy, or that Caleb and this girl are sleeping together. She attacks her, and what I don't fully understand is like it didn't really go into detail about like what happened. And I think it's Natalie's point of view, right? So she's not a reliable narrator, and we're in Natalie's head. But then, so she attacks her. This girl quits the next day, which is where the book starts. Okay. Then this girl goes on to publicly say, this gal, whatever she's called, Yesteryear Ranch, that's what their farm is called. Yesteryear, this Natalie, whatever, attacked me, and it kind of made it sound like she like, her raped her, if you know what I mean. And I was like, oh, and then everyone's like, is she lesbian? And I was like, wait, this kind of makes sense, because she is not attracted to Caleb at all. She's obsessed with Rena, and like she's so intimidated by other women. I was kind of like, oh, like maybe she kind of is, but not. I don't think she's lesbian. I think she's probably bisexual. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting plot. And then all of a sudden we go back in time, and it turns out we weren't going back in time to the 1800s at all. She was so like trying to make up for what she did to and like get back into like her career was ruined after this, like the scandal, the speculations with this one gal. They ended up paying her to drop all of her charges and whatever, like millions of dollars or something like that. And then she renovated her house to be like a house from the 1800s, dated everything in the 1800s. She kept having children. So the children that she recognized that she thought were her children, like she genuinely, and she was like constantly like on like drugs to keep her, I don't even know why they were doing this, but they're like keeping her kind of like sleepy and crazed so that she would actually think that she was in the 1800s. All of her children actually thought they're in the 1800s, and she was like 50 at this point, still having, and she had like a 3-year-old or something like that. Okay, so we find that out. Her oldest daughter, Clementine, who is kind of like against her the whole time, comes back at the end of the book and takes all of her kids. So she gets all of her kids taken away after the scandal, okay? Then she moves to this ranch with Caleb, Like Caleb stays with her, even though he's like, we're getting a divorce. And she's like, you're not going to divorce me. And they don't divorce. And then Clementine come back and takes the kids. And then finally her and Caleb at the end of the book are like, I hate you. And Caleb's like, you know what? I think I hate you too. And then they just keep living there. And she thinks she's pregnant, but it's actually just her going through menopause. And then during the book, it makes us think that she's pregnant because she's having Caleb. And she's like, wow, like this life, like I can live in the 1800s, like I can do this. It's so bizarre. Like nothing about it is cultish. And I think that's what I was going. If someone described this as like Ballerina Farms meets Six Passengers Mom, I would have probably liked this way more. But I was like, when does the cult come in? When does the cult come in? And also, like a lot of the things she was saying, because she was trying to be like, I'm such a good Christian, is like unfortunately, like not to that extreme. Like I don't think there probably are people who think that extreme, but there are quite a few religious people out there who do take some of the stuff she says like to the extreme and thinks they're better than other people because they're Christian. Which is sad, unfortunately, but that part was really realistic, and that's kind of giving me like Mormon, like Six Passengers Mom. So if you're watching this is not cultish. This is giving Ballerina Farms meets the Six Passengers Mom. Ruby Frank, is that her name? Ruby something? You know who I'm talking about. This is more like Six Passengers, especially with like her getting her kids taken away, and then like they were like malnourished because they were literally only eating like bread and whatever. And then she thought that Caleb was growing their own food, but she escaped the farm one day to go find a doctor for her youngest because her youngest was sick. And one of her oldest sons, she thought it was a neighbor. Her son was living like a couple miles away, buying them groceries and stuff. And she walked into his house and there was like a truck there and everything. And she's like, we need a doctor. And he was like, and then she like ran away. And then that's when everything like blew up. And we found out that like she wasn't actually going back in time. She was just crazy. But I liked the idea of actually going back in time and like being stuck there and then waking up like when she's in college one day and being like, oh my gosh, that was a crazy dream or something like that. I don't know. I wasn't satisfied with the ending actually just being like, oh, we never went back in time. We are just getting old and we've lived this life. But it was just everything that like rolled out after that was just honestly insane. Like so insane. And then like they were talking about like the rallies with Caleb's dad and presidential running, and it was giving like core, and I was just like, ew, I got the ick. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. It was so crazy. I still I loved it, but I hated it. So 3.75 stars, and I'm not changing my answer. Okay, we need to stop talking about that book. Next is The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. I'll try to make this fast. The next book I read was The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. I went back and forth on a rating for this. I did end up giving it 3.75 stars. I read Just for the Summer in March, and it was amazing. I gave it 5 stars. I wish I could read it again for the first time. And I think Abby Jimenez can really write of MMC. Like, I loved the MMC in this book, but it was a best friend's boyfriend, or my boyfriend's best friend trope, you know? And I didn't honestly mind that part. Like, I like it being a little bit messy. But the problem for me was that Larissa, our FMC, was just so like, oh, I'm just like not going to pay attention to any of these red flags and just keep hanging out with my boyfriend's best friend. And I'm just going to keep dating my boyfriend though. And even though I'm in love with his best friend, like if you know you like him, break up with your boyfriend. Like, in all the red flags, I was like, break up with your boyfriend. Like, this book literally could have just been a short 250-page book if she would have just broken up with him. And don't get me wrong, I liked the messiness, and I really, really liked our main male character, and I loved the dog in it. Like, and they shared a dog, which I'm like, if I was her boyfriend, I'd be like, that's kind of weird. Why are you have shared custody with my why are you sharing your dog with my girlfriend, you know? And there was just a lot of things like that where I'm like, this is a great idea, but the common sense isn't common sensing. Like, I like to read a book as long as there's common sense. Like, there needs to be some common sense. Otherwise, like, it's hard for me to read it. And some of the red flags that Larissa's boyfriend was doing. So was it Chris? No, Chris was the boyfriend, I think. Yeah, Chris was the boyfriend. Is it Mike or Chris? See, this is also the problem. I literally can't like tell them apart. No, okay. Chris is the the boyfriend's best friend, and the boyfriend's name is Mike. And Chris, like, I thought Mike was gonna be more of a bigger character, and he really wasn't. And I actually liked Mike's character. At first I was like, no. But then at the end I was like, no, like, you're a good friend, Mike. Even though you went through some shit, like, you're a good friend. And Chris was a good friend too, but almost too good of a friend. But like, I like Abby Jimenez's men, yeah. But the FMC in this one just wasn't that strong for me. And let me go grab a charger quick because my camera is gonna die. So I'll just make this really quick. I only have a couple books left. Yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say. Like, it's just a standard romance. She ends up with the best friend in the end, and everything works out, you know. In the end, it's just a lot of messy stuff in between. And also, like, Chris made her nut allergy, like, everything. Like, Larissa's nut allergy was literally, like, one of the biggest plots of the book, which was, like, kind of annoying to me. It was kind of annoying, but I gave it 3.75 stars. Like, it was good. It was definitely a good read. The next book I read was So Old, So Young, which I actually soft DNF'd this book when I first started it. I listened to the first, like, 20%, and I was like, this is bad. And I thought it was bad because it was basically just a bunch of college kids in New York, like, being terrible people. And, like, if there's one thing I'm not... Okay, this is the thing. I don't love a super toxic friend group, but then people are like, oh, but you like Magnolia Parks. That's different. Like, I was expecting that. You know what I mean? And it's toxic, but they also love each other and would die for each other. Like, I did not get that from this book, okay? Like, let's just make that clear. It's like this friend group, and they're all, like, friends, but they all kind of hate each other, and it's about growing up and going your separate ways and people having different lives than you and different lifestyles and getting married and having kids and going through divorces. And the first 20% when they were in college, I'm like, you all are just, like, annoying and terrible people in New York. And, like, you know that one meme where it's a guy and he goes up to someone on the street and he's like, do you like being a New York elitist piece of shit? And the girl's like, yes, and walks away. Like, that's kind of like the vibe I got a little bit.
Miss, I'm so sorry. What does it feel like to be an elitist New York piece of shit?
It feels awesome.
Thank you.
But then I was like, you know what? No, this is on my TBR. I want to finish it. So I kept going. And I actually ended up really liking the end. It was really touching, and I just thought it was, like, honestly, like, really realistic. Like, there are a lot of, like, really shitty friend groups out there. Like, you think you're really close for a while, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, gone. You don't talk to each other anymore. No one makes time for you anymore. I mean, I feel like that with my friends from college. Like, I dropped out, and I'm no longer in their friend group. We don't text anymore. When I go there, like, it's not like they're canceling plans to hang out with me. Like, it's just kind of like, oh, like, I have this going on, but I might see you. You know what I mean? And that's fine. People have other lives. And yeah, the end I just thought was actually really good. I think this is definitely worth a read. And I think if I reread it, I would appreciate the beginning more. Yeah, but I did give it 3.5 stars. Again, I think if I read it again, I would like it more. But it was a good book. I would definitely give this a read if you like literary fiction. It was a solid read. It was a solid read. I wish I would have kept going because I didn't go back and listen to the first 20% because I was like, I needed to just pull through. So I did kind of forget some of it. And there are a lot of characters and different point of views. And that's just something to think about. But Sasha was, like, not redeemable for me, like, at all. Like, at all. I was like, Sasha, you're not a good friend at all. And I didn't think she was a good friend even throughout the whole book. She was, like, one of my least favorite characters. Mitch was one of my favorite characters. So, and I thought Mia was kind of whiny. But again, I was like, I got her. So you'll just have to read the book to understand. Okay, and the last book I read was The Burning Side by Sarah DeMoff. I gave this 4 stars. I thought this was going to be a 5-star read. And I started listening to this book on audiobook, and it wasn't what I was expecting. A lot of these books, I think, got rated lower because it wasn't what I was expecting. I almost gave it, like, 3.5 stars. I'm still not set on, like, a 4-star, but, like, I'm just setting there for now. The book is about this couple who's going through divorce, and then their house, the husband's like, we're getting a divorce. And then the house goes up in flames that same night, and then they're stuck at her parents' house. And they're going through divorce, trying to keep it a secret from her siblings, life siblings, da-da-da-da. And then they get back together in the end. That's the whole plot of this book, okay? And I'm like, that sounds really good. What I didn't realize is that it's because the wife cheated. And what I don't love in a book is cheating. Again, Magnolia Parks is the exception. I expected that to be messy. I don't. And there was a lot of miscommunication in this. And this is the second book I read this month where it's a married couple and you have so much miscommunication. I don't understand. How can you marry someone that you're scared to talk to? I don't understand that. And maybe that's because I'm about to get married, but if I have a problem or something, I would tell Levi. You know what I mean? There wouldn't be any of this I'll just not tell him because I'm whatever. That just doesn't make sense. And to me, that is realistic, and I get that. But to me, it's then why did you get married in the first place? And the main character in this, what's her name? I literally am so bad with names. April literally said at one point, she was, up until they got back together, she was too scared to be herself with Leo. I'm you've had 2 kids and you're scared to be yourself around your husband. That's just not a good sign. But anyway, April ended up cheating on her husband at one point because he was so invested with school and he wasn't around a lot, which I am not saying that's not I don't think cheating's valid, but I can understand where she's coming from. I see that. But then also her husband, what was his name? Marco? Was his name Marco as well? No, Leo. Leo was just oh, April doesn't want me around. April doesn't want me around, so I'm just gonna not be home. And I get it. April did try to talk about it and Marco didn't. But Marco was kind of a baby to me. He just wasn't giving good husband energy at all. Just I'm gonna fake being this person and then until I can't fake it anymore. And that's kind of the vibe I got when they got to the divorce. And he didn't want to get back together because I totally get that you get cheated on and the trust is broken and it's really hard to gain that back. And I'm glad they did in the end. I liked the ending, and then the whole plot line with the mom and the dad, I liked that. It was just so many of the chapters were April trying to say something and then just not saying it, and then Leo being you know what you did, and then in his mind being April never wanted me, April didn't want me around. And I'm if you guys would sit down and have one conversation, this would all be taken care of. That kind of thing just irks me. I think if I knew, and I get it, the cheating is kind of a plot twist. I mean, they talk about Cody. Oh yeah, and Cody. And then you kind of get I think April might have cheated. And I think maybe a third of the way through you find out she cheated. Yeah, but they talk about Cody prior, and so you're kind of did she cheat? And I wish I would have known that it was cheating so I could go in it being okay. Because I really thought it was going to be this cute romance, kind of no matter what, where they're going to get a divorce, they're going through a hard time, this fire brings their family back together, but then there's whatever, not cheating. So I have a lot of mixed emotions about these books. I enjoyed most of them. I had 0 5-stars this month, and I had nothing over a 4-star book. In both of my 4-star books, The Burning Side and American Fantasy, to me, I think both The Burning Side and American Fantasy probably could have been 3.75 stars. Giving The Burning Side a 4-star was kind of pressure because everyone's I love this book so much. And I felt I kind of had it rated a little higher. I do think if I reread this, I would probably do 4 to 5 star. I really do feel that way. But I get pressured very easily from the internet to be oh, I need to rate this book really high because everyone else did. That's not true. Don't do that. I'm trying not to do that. But yeah, this wasn't a great reading month for me, especially because in April, I had my highest rating in April was 3.5 stars. So that was kind of ooh. And this month wasn't any better. I did say in my monthly favorites that my favorite read was No Matter What. Not that I necessarily loved the story, but I loved Cara Bastone's writing. I loved it. I cannot wait to read Ready or Not. And the rest of her discography. I didn't put that on my TBR this month, but I want to read Promise Me Sunshine or Ready or Not this month, and then either or in July. I loved her writing. I loved the idea of the wife being this great cook and having this amazing job where she, how much time do I have left? Ooh, this amazing job where she takes food and makes recipes out of food that you just have in your house, with bean cheese lasagna, and she just is you know what, you want to divorce me, you want to leave me, fine, I'm gonna go take an art class. And the art class and the people she met at the art class was amazing. The only thing that made it a 3.75 for me was the miscommunication between her and her husband. It was bad miscommunication just because the husband didn't want to talk to her about his feelings. Like, and that to me, and I'm like, you've been together for how long? And you can't do that. Like, that to me, like, that stuff just doesn't click together for me personally. I'm not saying it's not real. I probably could give No Matter What a 4-star if I read it again. I do want to get a physical copy of it. I think I did really like it. And yeah, I did really like it. My camera's almost dead. I really have to go, but thank you so much for watching this video. If you've read any of these books, again, please comment down below your thoughts. If you agree, if you disagree, what you rated it, I'd love to know. If you have Goodreads, Fable, Storygraph, please follow me on there. I'd love to see. I'd love to follow you guys back and see what you're reading. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next month recap. Bye.